Shalom. Hello, we are reading in the writings of Volume 1 article The Reason for Straightening the Legs and Covering the Head During the Prayer. You can find the study material on Kabag group info, and in Theot system you can send questions live through our website. Anyone asking a question here in the study hall is asked to stand up, hold the mic close to his mouth and speak loud the reason for straightening the legs and covering the head during the prayer. It is written in the Zakam, and see who stands during the prayer. He who stands during the prayer should straighten his legs and cover his head. As one who is standing before the king, he should cover his eyes so it's not to look at the divinity that he asks. You say one who is looking at the sh while he is praying, but how can he look here? It is to verify that they is standing in front of him during his prayer. This is why he must not open his eyes, and we should understand what the matter of straightening the legs implies, for it seems to be a condition in the prayer. It implies an important issue. So what is it? We should also understand why we must cover the head during the prayer. It can't be said that it means we must cover the head with a talit with a prayer sh during the prayer. This pertains only to the morning prayer. In the afternoon and evening prayers, which we pray without alrshp how can we speak of covering the head? What does that imply? Also, what does it mean to cover the eyes? We cover our eyes when we read the sh reading, but here he says that during the prayer we should also cover our eyes, so we should know what these words imply. Should also understand the reply of the Holy Tsar to the question, how can he look at, where he explains that it is to verify that they is standing in front of him during his prayer, but the answer is unclear. What is the connection between closing their eyes and knowing that they is standing in front of him? To understand the above, we must return to the whole matter of the work of creation. What is it for, and what is the degree that creation should achieve? It is known that the purpose of creation was to do good to his creations. To this comes the famous question, why then are the delight and pleasure not evident to each and every one of the creatures? Rather, we see the opposite. The whole world is suffering and tormented before they obtain some delight and pleasure. For the most part, when a person introspects, he says that our sages said it would have been better not to be bored than to be born. In other words, it would be preferable for men not to be born than to be born. It is known that the answer is that in order not to have shame called bread, shame, we were given a correction called equivalence of form. This means that every delight and pleasure that one receives should be with the intention to bestow. In order to be able to accustom himself to receive pleasures, in order to bestow, there had to be a restriction and concealment, so we would not see the great pleasures dressed in Torah, and right away we can learn the order of the work in order to bestow in corporal matters, where there are only small pleasures, which the Holy Zohar calls thin light, meaning very faint light. Holy sparks fell into the clip, put the shelves, so they will exist, and on that light which is found in corporal pleasures we can learn how to receive them in order to bestow, because on smaller pleasures it is easier to accustom ourselves to receive them. Only in order to bestow it is easier to say, if I cannot aim to bestow, I give them up and do not want to receive these pleasures, because by them I become separated from the Creator. It is known that he works only to bestow, and the L1 wants specifically to receive. Thus there is no equivalence of form here for this reason, meaning since he wants to adhere to the Creator, the act of reception det ease him from feeling the Creator due to the restriction and concealment that took place, so he could accustom himself to be able to do things and direct them to bestow. But if the providence of the Creator were revealed, that delight and pleasure would be revealed, and men would not be able to overcome his vessels of reception. By this we will understand what our S has said, that during the prayer a man must straighten his legs. Legs come from the word sb, spies, that is, the argument of the sb comes to a person they saw that it is not worthwhile to commence the work to reach the Holy Land, which is the land of Israel, for two reasons. One, what would the will to receive gain if he walked on the path that reaches only the king. That is, he would toil with his work he's doing for the Creator, and he will, and the will to receive will not benefit, but lose, and the desire to bestow will gain. But what will the world to receive, which is the heart of the created being, have, even if we say that it is worthwhile to serve the king? It brings man great pleasure. Not every person is fit for this. This must require special stipulations which are specifically for people born with great talents, and courage can overcome all the obstacles found when wanting to approach holiness. It is enough for us to remain on the same level as the whole of Israel. Why should we seek higher degrees than the general public? I don't need to be an exception, and I'm content with simply keeping tea and any intentions. This work will certainly be easier because it is closer to our vessels of reception. Why should I look at a handful of people saying that the most important is to work for the Creator? Surely the whole public is working for the Creator, so I will be as one of them. This is called SB. It was said that during the prayer, he must straighten his legs. This means that he should say that what the spies are showing him this way, that only a hand of people say that we must walk only in this path, but only this path is the truth and not the other ways, although they are paths of truth. This is, as our sag said, one should always engage into, not for her sake, and for me will come to for her sake. What our sages said must be true, but this path of trying to walk on the path that leads directly to the Creator, this path is called the complete truth. This means that he should reply to the spies telling him that what was doing was wrong, should say, now I'm going to ask the Creator to help me walk on my way which I have chosen now, and say that only this is an upright way, and this is the meaning of having to straighten the legs during the prayer. Follows that the prayer that he is going to pray to the Creator is for deficiency, for if he has no deficiency, he has nothing for which to ask and pray. And what is my deficiency? It is that I see that the spies won't leave me alone, and I don't want to walk in their ways. However, I see that all my thoughts and desires are only for my own benefit, and I see that I cannot do anything for the Creator. All I need now, and for which I should ask the Creator, is that he will give me a vessel called desire. That is, I am deficient of deficiency, meaning a desire to want to serve their king, and that this will be my every wish and aspiration, and not to worry about things that do not concern serving the king. However, the real reason why a person does not crave to serve their king is not that he does not want to serve their king. Rather said that the reason is that he does not believe he is standing before the king. When he feels that he is standing before the king, his choice becomes and he knows before the king as a candle before a torch. Therefore follows that the main thing on which one should work in his labor is to be rewarded with faith, meaning to feel that the Creator exists, as our SES said, the eye sees and the ear hears, since there is consummate over us. But before we exit self-love, we are still under the restriction that was done, so that the place of reception will be dark without light, which is called the space vacant of the aright. For this reason he asks the Creator to open his eyes, so we will feel that he's standing in front of the Creator, and he needs this not because he wants to enjoy standing in front of the Creator, rather he wants to bestow upon the Creator, and cannot do anything because he still does not feel the importance of the Creator. Rather into him is an exile, that is, when it occurs to him to do something for the Creator, it does not to think of his own benefit. The world grows dark on him. It seems to him that now he has passed away from the world and died. That is, he begins to feel that his entire existence is annulled, and he no longer merits a name. For this reason, right at the beginning of his entrance into that state, he wants to escape, because at that time he feels the unpleasantness that this situation is causing him cannot continue walking on this path. He understands that if he begins to walk on the path of only for the Creator, he should feel life and happiness. Suddenly he sees the opposite. This brings up the question, why is this? So the answer is that in this state, when he feels this way, he can feel the meaning of in the dust. That is, he feels that he has fallen so low that he has really stooped to the ground. Afterwards, when he knows what is in the Dust he can pray to the Creator and do good deeds, so the Creator will raise the from there. Thus, that is where he felt that assuming the burden of the kingdom of heaven, meaning to work only for the Creator and not for himself, tastes like dust, he asks the Creator to remove his concealment from him, so he will be rewarded with seeing that they is called the land of the living. That is precisely by wanting to do everything for the Creator and not for his own benefit. Precisely from here one is rewarded with real life. This is the meaning of the land of the living, a land from which life springs to. Alali, the land of the other side, is called land that consumes its dwellers. It is known that the matter of reception causes separation from holiness. For this reason the wicked in their lives are called dead, is called Atesian, as it is written, and you who cling to the Lord, you God, are alive, every one of you. This means that a wanting the Creator to open his eyes and to be rewarded with faith, meaning to feel his existence, does not mean that he craves the pleasure of feeling that he is standing before the king. Rather, he craves not to be wicked by not wanting to observe the commandment of loving the Creator. And although there cannot be love without pleasure, there's the matter that one wants it directly and indirectly. Something else is drawn. For example, a person wants to love his children because he wants to enjoy it, although it cannot be said that he loves the matter and does not feel pleasure about it. For where one feels suffering, one cannot speak of love. Only sometimes we say that we are happy about suffering. By this we might gain something like a person going through surgery in the hospital. He pays the doctor a lot of money and he goes. He does not say that he loves it, but he's happy about it because by this he will gain something important, his life. Therefore we cannot say that he wants to love his children and work for them so as to enjoy. Rather, the fact that he wants to love is love that comes naturally and has nothing to do with pleasure. His love for them gives him joy. Follows that pleasure derived from love of children is extended indirectly. It is the same when a person asks the Creator to bring him closer and give him the light of faith to feel the existence of the Creator. Naturally, at that time he kneels before the Creator and certainly enjoys himself. However, this is not what he means. Rather, his intention is that he wants the Creator to bring him closer because he sees that he is wicked and cannot do anything except for his own benefits. He truly wants to exit self-love. Follows that his intention is to exit self-love and not to receive greater pleasure, that is, since he does not enjoy corporal pleasures all that much, to give more pleasure to his will, to receive his purpose, meaning that he wants his self-love to have more pleasure. Certainly not, on the contrary, he wants to exit self-love altogether. But the reason that causes him to want to ask the Creator to take him out of self-love and give him the light of faith is only that he's Jewish and must observe because the Creator has commanded us to observe his will. He sees that he has nothing to do with bestowing upon the Creator. Rather, all his concerns are as those of the Gentiles, only self-love. This motivates him to go and ask for something to be able to be a Jew and not a Gentile who belongs to the nations of their world. However, we should remember that it is impossible to feel the existence of the Creator without feeling pleasure, and yet this is so when the pleasure comes to him indirectly, meaning when he does not intend for it, but that it comes to him by itself, because it is natural that when we feel that we are standing before the King, we feel the importance of the King, and to that extent we are filled with pleasure. Therefore follows that it cannot be said that he's standing before the King and feels that he wants to kneel before the King and at the same time feel unpleasantness because he wants to. Therefore, when a person sees if he begins to work in order to bestow and feels that by his annulling before the Creator he feels unpleasantness, you should say that this is not the form of the King, but that such a feeling came to him in order to know the meaning of in exile or in the dust. Then the time is right for praying to the Creator to bring him closer, since otherwise he sees that there is no way that he will be able to enter holiness by himself, since he feels that all the body's organs resist serving the King and annulling his existence, so all his aspirations will be only to serve the king. Then at that time he's called deficient, when there is no one in the world who can help him but the Creator himself. However, regarding the deficiency, we should make several discernments in order to fit for fulfillment when praying to the Creator for help. He has what he needs, but he does not feel its absence. For example, a man has a family of 6, and his friends have a family as big as his and live in 3 rooms, while he lives in an apartment with 2 rooms. He is content with a little and does not feel deficient of another room. Naturally, when he does not feel deficient, he does not make efforts to obtain another room. It follows that with such a deficiency, we cannot speak of prayer. Therefore, granting the prayer is irrelevant here, because there is no light without a cle, there's no thing without a lack. He feels its deficiency and begins to cry to obtain it. However, after some time of making efforts to satisfy his need, he sees that he cannot obtain it so easily, and here's he begins to tell himself that he does not have to be among the prominent people in the public, and he can settle for what he has, and by nature the laziness helps him justify his lack of effort to a great extent. Now he is restful and carefree, because now he does not want anything. However, since before he despaired, he made great effort to obtain what he thought of deficiencies, the feeling he had hoped to achieve keep coming to him, and as much as he had exerted to obtain them, it is as though the feeling itself is awakening him now to begin the work. And at that time a person comes to a state where he asks the Creator to remove all the thoughts that awaken him to feel deficient and work on them. Instead, he prays that no lack will come into his mind. All he wants now, and if he attains this, it will be a state he calls is not to feel any lack. It therefore follows that the thing he hopes for is not to have a sense of deficiency. This is the entire feeling for which he hopes. Now he wants to enjoy the absence of feeling deficiencies, and he does not expect the feeling the feeling of deficiencies. Rather, the whole satisfaction is in the absence of the feeling of lack. At is what he wants now. That is, this will be the best state in his life. This means that should his friend come and ask him, do you need anything, I will try to grant you, where she will reply to him, believe me, that now I in a state where I do not need anything now. All I want is rest, not to worry about anything, embarrassed to tell you, since you came to me and probably came in order to delight me, but to tell you the truth, even you're interrupting my rest by having to try to think what to speak to you about. I'll tell you the truth. Go in peace and do me a favor. Tell all our friends not to come visit me if they see that I'm not around. Say the only good I feel in my life is rest from all the trouble. Certainly, when a person prays that the Creator will satisfy such a deficiency, he can receive satisfaction of such a prayer which is built on the foundation of despair and idleness. He wants the Creator to help him be lazy, and such a deficiency is not about to be filled, because such fillings will not build the world, and all the prayers must be for construction and not the other way around. Must pray for the correction of the world, and idleness will not yield any construction. He feels his deficiency, and all the thoughts of idleness and despair cannot satisfy his lack. This reason he tries to seek advice on how to obtain what he wants. It follows that he's praying to the Creator for the filling of his deficiency, because he wants the construction of the world. He sees that in the state he is in, he is also constructing, but all the buildings he's building are like little children playing and building toy houses, and then dismantling them only in order to build once more. Likewise, he's looking at the corporal life, and as the games of the children who are building will not build the world, corporal pleasures will not be the construction of the world, which must have been created for a purpose and not for little children. So how can he agree to remain among little children, although the children laugh at him that he does not want to play with them and do not understand him, thinking that he probably does not have a sense for life and does not know that we can enjoy life, but he is not like everyone else, but seemingly he wants to retire from the world and go to the desert to live like the desert animals, and yet he cannot give them any answer, since he has no common language with them. In any case, he is suffering due to his Like he wants to be rewarded with spiritual life if follows that only in the third discernment of deficiency can we say that his prayer is called a prayer since he demands filling so he can correct the world so as to have the ability to perceive the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his creations. He believes that all the concealment and restriction that exists in the world is because we haven't the proper tools for the abundance of godliness, which is the vessel of bestow. For this reason he asks the Creator to give him vessels of best, and we can obtain this by feeling the greatness and importance of the king. But when he is in exile, and when the work tastes like dust, how can we continue this work? This is why a prayer such as this is accepted. Now we can interpret the words of the Holy Saw when we asked about the intention of saying that we must cover the head and close our eyes as though standing before the king. The head is called man's mind. Likewise the eyes are regarded as the mind, as it is written, the eyes of the congregation, which means the elders of the congregation. Covering, closing means not looking at what the mind tells him. This means that when a person stands in the prayer, he must believe that he is standing before the king, and although he does not feel the king, he should pray that the Creator will give him the power of faith to feel that he is standing in front of the king. This means that he wants the power of faith that will be just like knowing, meaning the body will be impressed by the faith that he believes as though he's seeing the king and is impressed with the king. This is the faith for which he prays. This is why he says that it is forbidden to open the eyes during the prayer, because it is forbidden to look at where divinity. The Holy Soul asks, how can he look at the ascete? He replies that it is to verify that is standing in front of him during the prayer, which is why he's forbidden to open his eyes. We asked what is the answer. The thing is that the faith that a person believes should be exactly as if he's seeing the otherwise. If his faith has not reached this level, is not regarded as real faith. This is the kind of faith for which one should pray that the faith will work in him as though he's seeing everything with his eyes. Thank you to the reader. This is clear, right? Excellent. So we need to reach the degree of faith so it will cover everything and there are no questions. Yes, can in that case, oh, we do get impression. It fills one with confidence. That Rash is going through all the states he's showing us, like in the jungle. Here's the order he's it's amazing each time. What does it mean that we should not look at there? Because the revelation of the is precisely in order for one to cover himself and not see it. This is why this is the condition. On the one hand, it says that one needs strong faith to know with certainty that is standing before the to truly see it. On the other hand, you should not see what for those two sides. To see with faith is called to see in the light of faith, to see in the lot of faith. What is forbidden or forbidden means impossible. What when a person reaches such vessels of bestow that come and replaces vessels of reception, and then what does it mean to cover one's eyes? That he doesn't need to receive any light from the Creator, but rather he says that I'm going to remain this way. Why? Because if he'll receive it's going to lose the faith. Protecting the faith by covering the eyes, he keeps the faith strong. Yes, this means that all of men's work is to reach a state where he can live in the light of faith and not in the light of. So forbidden here is a kind of limitation that a person has to. Yes, Ken, when he writes in the end that the faith that a person has to be as though he's seeing everything as though he's seeing the exactly essence, where he should feel emptiness on one hand and on the other hand and feel there is a Creator. Complete faith as if he's perceiving. How do we come to such a state where you're empty and on the other hand you believe and that's exactly because the light of faith fills you. The light of faith fs you. So it starts with states, because to reach a state of emptiness and feel the fully seems not simple to attain. How do you advance toward that? How do we follow such a path when we don't want a feeling, but rather what we want? What we want is only spoke at the beginning of the AR. You need to start with small corporal matters. You have to start with that. Yes, thank you. If a person comes to the degree of faith as if he's seeing this, so what's the problem to see it the equivalent And on that level, what do you have to cover his eyes if he's in the correct state? I didn't understand that he makes a restriction over his vessels, the reception. So in these vessels the light of faith is not revealed, I mean the light of, but rather what is revealed is only the light of, and the person says that he doesn't need any more. This for him is as though he would receive the light of in his entire vessel. So if he needs nothing more, what does he have to cover his eyes if he needs nothing? This is the action. Then with this section he says that I do not need the light that could be revealed now, but rather I hide myself, and instead of it I want to receive the light of faith. The light of what is the light of faith? The light of what does it mean? It seemingly paralyzes the desire for fulfillment. He can do it with the desire. The Creator is the boss of the desire, but rather the person wants to say that he doesn't need the feeling, because he's said he has a complete feeling that he is. And if the work of men is only to come and live in the rich life in the light of, when does a person begin to live in the light of you're satisfied with the L of? Where's the connection to? Doesn't it feel that he settles for it, that he restricts himself and is satisfied with it only? He doesn't feel it that way. Rather he reaches such a feeling, such a state, because in such a way he understands that he is most similar to the Creator, the state where he's satisfied with little. He's not truly satisfied with the state. The question is, what extent does he feel that it is so still? Don't it if the faith or is enough, then why is he lacking anything else? Because these vessels in and of themselves are vessels of reception. That reflected light is when he returns the red light vessel makes of himself that direct light, but in return the Creator that he's hiding, and the reflected light, the light of faith talked about. No, meaning reflected light is a reflection of direct light, but from the side of the vessel. Yes, no, maybe Sasha answered. The main thing the person has to try in his work is to rewarded faith, meaning to feel that there's a reality Creator. The Creator exists. It doesn't contradict, meaning if I feel that the Creator exists, doesn't it cancel my faith? It depends on how you feel him. That's a question. What's the difference between wanting to be in faith and feeling that the Creator exists? Faith also is light. It's right to you see, and so it's not very in the light of faith. You don't feel anything. You don't need anything. It's not kind of illumination from a that cancels all of your vessels. Much rather you have vessels and you want to feel in them the presence of the Creator. If my words disappear, okay, so you'll have maybe another time stages before you reach the deficiency. He writes a few things there. Few steps, page 36, column 2. Above the deficiency, you should make several discernments in order to be fit for fulfillment. When praying to the Creator, first he is what he needs, but he does not feel its absence. The second one is that he feels his and begins to try to obey it. However, after some time of making efforts that he cannot attain it, and then he reaches despair, and then laziness takes over, and finally the third stage where he feels the deficiency. So as Rashi have to get through all these stages, or he's cautioning us from getting into laziness, or I have to get into laziness. I can't avoid that despair that throws me into laziness. Even though you enter not according to a prayer, but because this is how the Creator arranges these things. Yes, so I have to go there. Yes. No, you wanted to ask something. No. Ken. Yes, Assam. Carson wants only the deficiency and not the fulfillment. That's the state. Right along the way, when we come to such a state, it's work in the T. What does he want in this state for the friends? He only wants sufficiency for them, or he wants fulfillment for them. He uses their vessels. How does he use them? What is he going to obtain? It's hard to understand. I can understand on myself for the future. Not that I feel it, but I can understand it to some extent. I yearn to reach a state where I only have a deficiency. I will not receive a fulfillment. I will only be like the quality of bestow that's about me. But why do I have to ask for the friends along the way the same thing? Or I want them to have the whole okay deficiency, or also the fulfillment that they'll have all of the thing. The main thing a person has to try in his work is to be rewarded with quality of faith, meaning to feel that the Creator, exists action, called trying to be rewarded with faith. What should a person try to do, strive to do? Which vessels does he feel the existence of the Creator? Now he feels the existence of the Creator between what disturbs his will to receive and what he knows that it shouldn't be this way, that the existence of the Creator is the opposite of the vessels of reception to feel the existence of the Creator. So what is the what? Should we try here? Try for the effort is that if you have all your inherent will to receive, and you make a restriction over it, and you raise yourself to the D, OFO, and in this way according to the reflected, like that, you're going to activate it towards the Creator. When we say restriction in the world to receive, is it something a person can do directly, or is that a process that happens through the reforming light? Can I do it? Person is not capable of performing a restriction or anything else that should we clear. This is only by the Creator's attitude towards him. He speaks here of corporal pleasures. Did they prevent one from reaching faith? They don't. It only depends on how the person relates to them. How do? What should be the attitude toward that? It should be only with a clear question of why should I use them? How do they serve that go? Lastly, he gives a beautiful example here about if his friend will come to him and ask if he's lacking anything. He answers, believe me that I'm in a state where I lack nothing. Even tells him, bothering me, that all the good that he feels that I feel in life rest from all the concerns. That's what the friend answers. He gives the example, doesn't give a recommendation. Why do you answer such a friend? That friend who says he answers his friend and says, I don't care about what you're going to tell me, but rather don't bother me, let me enjoy my situation. Right, when the friend says that, if I'm standing before this friend, also before myself mostly, what do you answer to that? The friend says, everything is good. I have everything I just want. I want to rest. What do I tell him is a goal. There's a very high goal, and it's worthwhile for us to discover it, because ultimately, it will always stand before us, meaning our job is to remind the friends. Yes, thank you. The sigh with Job. He writes, in that state the Creator does not answer the prayer of a person. He says, later he comes to the third phase, and he say you have to ask for the building of the world. Does it mean the building of the world is a general correction of the in that state where he only wants to be left alone? Can he see or want the general correction? It is indeed an extreme state. We said almost everyone go through that state. Just leave me alone, I don't want anything. It's like a dead person. Yes, so where does he find the power to ask? Asks for these forces, specifically in a state where he doesn't have any connection with such forces. He asks to have them, to have the strength. What kind of strength? Forces, at least for something, so that he can start with that what have a deficiency for. Bestow, yes, even a small light of that's what he wants, and after that he just wants to stay adhere to that, and continue there no later on its according to his situation, and that the Creator will advance him according to his state. Yes, thank you. He writes, sorry me have a different question. The dust, when he feels that his reality is cancelled and he knows that it's in the dust, then he can pray and do good deeds so that the Creator will from the dust. What are the deeds that he discovers when he sees that he has no energy to advance, and now with all of his forces this is what he can want? Good deeds. Some sounds like something that's after the annulment. So what are those good deeds he can do toward their friends when he's got no ability to do? He feels he has no ability to do anything. Prayer is a good deed. And if he prays that the will be corrected, or that he will be corrected, that the will be corrected, or that the person will be corrected, where does he see a flaw in himself or in the he feels divinity in the dust? Feels it's him. He has no power to lift her. So what is the question? Where get power? That enemy whose reality is cancelled, and he has no power, and he just needs to lift his head and hold it up and do something a day in that he wants to be like the Creator. Yes, that he bestows without any will to receive for himself. Okay, now let's say generally speaking, need to be corrected, or the person needs to be corrected person is a part of the well it will come. Yes, what does it mean to be rewarded with life? To be rewarded with life, it means receiving all the lights of the Creator and are reaching Him with a complete congruence for an eternal. Saying the friend asked, here am I actually ask Him to fill the friend's deficiencies. Mean to is that the meaning of revealing life to want the land of life have to enjoy this pleasure by bestowing to the friend by asking about the friend's deficiencies. Yes, to ask what is the difference in reality between having the L of and having L of its, who's either from the feeling or from the intention. So why do we lack the light of what's missing in reality? That we need light of is light that shines to the vessel and gives it the feeling of wholeness when it is empty. So what's actually lacking in reality? Why specifically missing? What's missing in our reality is the adhesion of the vessel with the Creator. So where do you get fulfillment? How is the vessel fulfilled if it's always empty? It's not always empty if in the present state you want to be in adhesion with the Creator. Then this actually is what he should receive, is the light of He writes. In order to have faith he needs to have the greatest of the King before him, but as soon as he has the greatness of the King he is anal as a candle before a torch. So how can faith grow when we have God? This is exactly this light that fills him, the light of the light of. What does it allow you to do? What does it do in a person? So on the one hand it stays adhesion, in the other side on the other hand it stays empty. What does it do to him? The of appears in the vessel and fills all the spaces in it, so that actually from them the person earns for adhesion. No following what we asked, page 361, third paragraph. He says, the third deficiency says this is the true deficiency. Only this in this sermon. His prayer is called prayer because he demands fulfillment so the world can be corrected, which is the ability to receive the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his creations. And he believed that all the concealment and restriction that exist in the world is because we haven't the proper tools fit for the abundance of godliness. His vessel of bestow. One hand he asks for fulfillment, he asks for vessels of bestow, yeah, but he wants the purpose of creation. It's not for himself, I guess, meaning there's a question here before that. He writes that he has a deficiency where he wants to reach spirituality. Right, in any case he's suffering due to his lack, that he wants to be rewarded with spiritual life. So the solution to get to it is that he has to yearn for fulfillment, which is the purpose of creation, to correct the world. But he has to be satisfied with faith, which is sad. He explained the way. Yes, so how if we want fulfillment? Not even for myself. I want the purpose of creation to be revealed in the world and have the last, the end of correction. But I don't want it for myself, but it passes through me. Yes, how can we right shut our eyes and not be it at all? How can we? Yeah, to the whole world. 12th part of the collective. No, not yes is a question. Theoretically it's possible, but this is on the condition that our person is capable of filling himself with the light of. So it's as if he doesn't reach the purpose of creation, but in practice it's a constant process. A sense, the sense you can't just stand there, can stand motionless. Yes, here there's a question whether in the end, as we stand before the end of correction, are we in the light of the correction of creation? Well, let's put it aside for now. No must be. Let's continue. We'll go to the next part of the lesson. We'll sing a song. There's a calling deep inside. Together we can hear through the fire. We will find a place above there. Fear, a melody in every heart is waiting to be heard. We will sing with one desire. His song will fill the world. For there are all speak for the sh. Here hearing us. We are reading from the writings of the study of 10 part 10 from item number 2. This text isn't translated to English. We're going to do it simultaneously. Item 2, the words of the. For that reason, when the emanator wanted to correct them, he needed to correct the separation that was in him, in them to begin with, and unite them and connect them with the strong bonds together, which was through the way of the lines because then there is and the determines them so in they behave by determining in measure and weight again number 2 for that reason when the emanator wanted to correct them he needed to correct the separation that was in them to begin with unite them and connect them to a strong bond together which is through the path of the lines because then and determines between them also in they behave through determining in measure and scale inner light of number 2 elaborating on a strong bond between them through the path of their lines by the second restriction that took place when they came the lower har rose toik of s and the lower hay connected to the first har by the incorporating of the measure of mercy and judgment then the lower hay which is the mal ascended and incorporated in each and every up called or was corrected in the female called the illumination of neck the ascent of this made the left line in each and every up meaning the impressions of the lower hay that every received is considered the left line of that and the essence of the itself is considered the right line which remained in it from there all the tsb that have united and bonded together in the two lines right and left afterwards when the coupling was made on the screen and coes and the new degree came called the look of the into the middle line was made and it is what determined between the two lines right and left that is in each end every and connected them into one by that a strong bond was made between the t that all 10 are united and connected through the 3 lines in one another it is known that only of came out whole from they but could not receive from therefore that reason they did not come out but only in one line one below the other sc because was below all of them and she didn't have any connection in them just like in the first restriction it is known that that was one reason for the chattering of their vessels because they were broken faced to back and even the smallness in them wasn't remaining like the go that's why the first correction of those said is correcting the lines in them meaning that the lower hay will incorporate in the first hay by this the will be absorbed in each and every and connect them through the 3 lines as mentioned above is that okay here we see that really the combination of the 3 lines how this helps the whole weakness of the vessel number 3 the words of that there was an addition in them from that up till now there was only v of bone in it the first 4 will come and that was only a first point the other 9 points or dots were added by this they will be completed and be able to receive their lights again number 3 there will be addition in them because there and that still only had v the first 4 will come and thick that was only 1.9 other dots will be added to it by this they will be complete and be able to receive their lights next by this impregnation that they will all be together in one narrow place they will connect and bond in one another from them and within them in the length of time of impregnation also the lights of Biner will shine in them and add the force to correct them and connect them mh sure again number 4 the interpretation in turn number 4 interprets this impregnation they will be all together in one narrow place in 2 fundamental corrections happened in the impregnation by the force of the ascending to the first was that mal was incorporated in the second is that was incorporated in which is of by this incorporation in the which is narrow meaning the light of extended in it which is narrow and long mal received a great mitigation because of the hiss of that was in it which is the light that brings life to the mal as shar hiding in the vessels by the incorporation in Biner which is the low hay connects and bonds in the first which is the measure of mercy that is the main meaning of the impregnation to sweeten the measure of judgment and the measure of mercy these were the words of the that they will all be found together in one narrow place and also the lights of will shine in them meaning to show the 2 fundamental corrections 1 the first narrow part that reads from to the illumination of that receives from and the force of these 2 illuminations she connects and unites all the in one another in the 3 lines in one strong bond wonderful item 5 the words of the it is known that by raising them through impregnation is their ascent through man causing a coupling in ABA and bringing down drops of male and female, and by those drops, they will connect the dots together. Then their vessels will be scrutinized and raised above to the impregnation and be corrected. Their number 5, it is known that by raising them through impregnation they are through month and cause a coupling in ABA and bring down drops of male and female, and by these drops these dots will be connected together. Then their vessels will be scrutinized and ascend up to the impregnation and get corrected. The light number 5 interprets the ascent through man and cause a coupling in AB. The records of the Z that are the phase of adhered to the of the incorporate in the man of ABA themselves perform a coupling on their own man from the incorporation of the records of Z in them. This incorporation causes that the man of will awaken in them, which is suitable for those records that are suitable for the degree of impregnation and the degree of man that came out in that incorporation belongs to those records which are there said because they were the cause for the measure of that coupling and themselves have no need for that measure of that degree. Read it again interlate. Number 5, their ascent through man cows the coupling in AB. The records of the Z that are the pH of that add to incorporate in the man of themselves and form a coupling on their own man from the incorporation of the records of sat in them. This incorporation causes to awaken in them the measure of manner which is suitable for their records that is worthy of the degree of where impregnation. We find that the degree of that came on that incorporation belongs to those records which are their Z because they were the cause to that. Saying AB themselves have no need for the degree for that degree themselves, so it's not clear what are really performing the C on their own man or what comes from said. Didn't you read it? Yeah, but he writes that both options can happen, that they perform the coupling on their own man, but then at the end he says it's because of what Z needed and they themselves have no need for that measure. Correct. So what is that action? What are they performing the coupling upon? Or it's a combination between them. It's a nice question. Do you have not an answer? Also a question. It says that AB performed the coupling on their own man. So when Z Ra used the same man, or in other words, what is their own man? How does the man of the lower one, how can it become man of its own in the upper one? That's not clear. That's really a question, but it can happen. He continues, says something else that isn't clear. Then he starts mentioning mud. We find that the whole ent of M and that came on that incorporation belongs to those which are the Z, so it's clear that Z is the reason. But what does it mean that we find all the degree of M and man that came out on that incorporation? How did mud suddenly come here M, but the man invites the mud, so that's a result. Yes, but they are nevertheless incorporated in one another. Okay, where are we? Item 6. Yes, let's read item 6. Number 6, the words of the also the lights get an additional correction because to begin with those dots with no lines and no, but they were all incorporated in UD, but they are mixed and mingled in them, and the lights did not show their actions now by this connection that they were connected through this impregnation. The lights showed their actions. This was the and this was the goof, and the eye could see and the ear could hear. Again, okay, no, that's all right. Now let's move to the next part. We'll go to the next part of the L. We are reading in the books of in the writings of Bam the Arctic. From my flesh I shall see God. Headline qualification for the nurturing of the soul. It is impossible to sustain one's body in the world without a certain amount of knowledge about the corporeal nature, such as knowing which drugs are lethal and what things burn or harm, as well as knowledge and assessment of what is in one's friend's heart, without which it is impossible to exist in the material world. Just so man's soul cannot exist in the next world until it has acquired a certain amount of nature of the systems of the spiritual worlds, their changes, couplings, and generations. We discern 3 periods in the body. The first is from the time of birth, when one has no knowledge whatsoever, and all that is required to know in order to exist comes from the father and the mother, and one is sustained by their keeping and wisdom. This is the first state of the second is when a person is grown and acquired some knowledge at that time, one can keep from things that harm one's body through joint, keeping that of parents and that of one's own. This is the second. The third is the state of when one has acquired sufficient knowledge for life, look after oneself enough to survive. At that time one departs the authority of one's father and mother and acquires autonomy. This is the third state of Buddha. Likewise concerning the soul, a person reincarnates until one acquires the wisdom of truth and full. Without that, the soul cannot reach its full level. It is not that the knowledge one has acquired raises the level of the soul, rather it is the soul's inherent nature that it will not grow by its own effort before it has acquired the knowledge of the spiritual nature. Its growth depends on the measure of its knowledge. The reason this is so is that it could grow without knowing. It would be harmed like an infant who is ignorant and cannot walk. If it could walk on its feet, it would throw itself into a fire. However, growth comes primarily through good deeds which depend on attaining the wisdom of truth, and both the knowledge and the good deeds depend on attaining the wisdom of truth, and for the above reason both come together. This is the meaning of not go forth, and see therefore each complete soul attains all the souls from to the end of correction as one perceives one acquaintances and neighbours, and according to one's knowledge guards oneself from them or connects and lives with them. And it is not surprising that one attains all the souls, since spirituality does not depend on time or place, and there is no death there. Hello. Contin headline: body and soul. Everybody is impatient and ill-tempered, for its livelihood is through incarnations, through the 7 years of famine and the 7 years of abundance. It is inexorable law that the years of famine cause the years of abundance to be forgotten, and the body reincarnates between them like stones that have been ground by water, and another plate always around. It imagines that one's friend is happy and content. This comes because at its basis the soul is ground between the good and the evil inclination. It incarnates between them, at times feeling relief by surrounding good inclination, and at times suffers an additional plate from the surrounding evil inclination. Yes, title: obtaining knowledge in the corporeal and in the spiritual. The connection between the body and the soul is only that in the former things happen to it naturally and by themselves, and in the latter they happen through work and joint relation between the spiritual and the corporeal. The advantage of the spiritual over the corporeal is that in the corporeal there is reality even without attaining all the incidents, similar to the perception of an infant who does not know the reason for their thing and will also not eat something that is harmful to it. But in the spiritual, no reality is attained prior to knowing the events and their outcomes to the extent of the knowledge of the events. So the attainments of one's greatness and the attainments of the surrounding spiritual reality, again obtaining knowledge in the corporeal and in the spirit. The connection between the body and the soul is only that in the former things happen to it naturally and by themselves, and in the latter they happen through work and joint relation between the spiritual and the corporeal. The advantage of the spiritual over the corporeal is that in the corporeal there is reality even without attaining all in, similar to the perception of an infant who does not know the reason for the thing and will also not eat something that is harmful to it. But in the spiritual, no reality is attained prior to knowing the events and their outcomes to the extent of the knowledge of the events. So is the attainment of one's own great, and the attainment of the surrounding spiritual reality, revelation of the works of their Creator and concealment. Then I was by him as a master craftsman, and I was their sages interpret it to mean that prior to the days of the Messiah, one receiving prelates, the craftsman comes out toward them, and each craftsman plays with them. On the first day he reveals the light, on the second he makes fent, etc. These are the 6 work days, and all delights in resting on the 7th day, placing its sanctity and blessing to the world. This is the meaning of what our sages said, that prior to bringing the first fruit all the craftsmen stand before them. That is precisely when they are called wise. However, Craftsmen do not stand before disciples of the wise come and see how great is a commandment in its time. The merit of the Shabbat is that in it is the blessing and the holiness to correct all the weekdays, although it seems as though the correction depends on the work days and not on the days of rest in which one does not work at all. It is not so, rather the blessing and the holiness of Shabbat correct the week days. Indeed, each correction seemingly requires work, but in truth, the power of the Creator appears in full only in concealment, for when the power of concealment disappears from the world, perfection promptly appears by itself, and as one who throws one staff to the firmament, the staff flies up, because the power of the thrower is in it. Therefore the entire duration of the flight is attributed to the power of the thrower. Also the strength of the thrower appears at that time. Conversely, during its whole return and fall towards the earth, the power of the grower is not attributed to the fall at all, rather it returns to its root by itself without any assistance. Similarly, the work of the Creator is apparent in all concealments, but in the return to wholeness no work or power are required, because in the absence of the preventing force it returns to its root and wholeness by itself. This is the meaning of "and God rested on the seventh day, for in it he rested from all his work." At is on that day the power of the work of the Creator was removed from the world after having worked to establish in it in its current form throughout the work days, but on the seventh day no har worked, but it was left alone as it was written, "I will take away from my hand." That's naturally the force of wholeness is imprinted specifically on that day, so that the power of concealment will not work. Here we have nothing else here, right? Yes, I wanted to ask a more general question about the way the lesson is kind of being carried out here. Yesterday Elker and myself already for a long time the lessons have been upgraded. There's a new form of connection, and we're mostly reading. We read rash, we read test, now we read so many discernments, and each kind of needs to interpret from himself and to understand himself, and you're opening it less, leaving us room to learn from. Aribi, wait, what could I add here? He writes things that are clear and they're sliced. I'm convinced there's plenty to add and open and scrutinize and chew. I feel that whatever you hear, you add each one according to their quality. So that's actually the question towards our work now during the lesson. What's the correct work with the sources? Because this is actually the focus, the focal point to read and complete, and to be accepting of what I'm understanding. Look, there are sources that we must go through together and interpret them and discuss them, ask and answer. But there are sources that we read and they enter us from the way we relate to the source. And here I'm not pressuring you that you need to answer and discuss it and understand every detail. That's not what it's written for. What's the correct attitude towards the source? How do you approach such a source to take the max out of it? Just get inspired by it. Just inspiration, sometimes some nod, but actually it's just an impression and the expectation that will open even from the habit at we were. What can I add here? Give me an example, not necessarily about this specific text, also about test that we studied and read. We simply read, we go through sources and no one test that's clear. It's a different explanation we need to read. You can also listen to the where's interpreted test. It's all in the archive, right? I don't think you could do more than that. If so, ask what correct preparation does there need to be in order to be impressed correctly from the text. They get inspired from the text, meaning to be adhered to the text, to be adhered to it, meaning what's written is I want to be in it, connected to it, get inspired from it, and to understand. That's the last thing, because that's not the way you advance right now. Oh, I need to feel this a godly matter, I just should be tight with the text. Understand, don't understand, doesn't matter, be inspired. Whatever it does to me, yeah, that. Especially what about knowledge? Nevertheless, understanding the content, that's to the extent that you want to extract the content from what you hear. Please, that's given to you. Thank you. Ken describes here the Creator being revealed, the force of the Creator being revealed in the 6 days of work, and on the Sabbath his force is not being revealed, and it all returns to its root. Naturally, that's understood. It's also what's being described in the first chapter of Genesis, but the state of the created beings. It's not so clear because we actually experience it the other way around. During the 6 days of the week we don't feel the Creator, and we say that when we come to the Sabbath we go up to, then there will be a feeling of where Creator. So can you explain why for us it's the opposite of it? There still isn't a connection between the 6 days and Sabbath at the moment. At the moment we can awaken those 6 days meaning or light, special lights that come to the soul and each soul and work on it, and on Shabbat at it's already revealed the deed from within the soul. When the deed is revealed from the soul, is the Creator revealed and felt in it? Yes, specifically. That so theoretically, when a person develops in this process and does feel that he's awakening the 6 days of work, then the Creator is concealed, seemingly as far as he's concerned. It sounds like from the side of the Creator it's already the Sabbath, because a person returns to the roots during the period. It's like when the Creator is in rest, we're working. How does this work? Are we speaking about a person attaining? Yes, I want to scrutinize. Generally, when a created being uplifts himself, arises above, it means that he's returning to his root according to what Bam writes here. It's already the Sabbath from the side of the Creator. So I'm trying to understand here, what does it mean that the whole act of the created being is only on the Sabbath? The 6 work days is only a preparation, so I need to understand this. Right now it's the 7th day, the Sabbath, and it's the place for the created being to rise up. Very interesting. It's a result of the 6 work days. Yeah, I wanted to continue the questions of duty when we read the sources, and we simply read and read and read more and read more. What does the ability to open the source depend upon? As much as you are adhered to the Creator, to the writer, to the text, to what's behind the text, the connection between the text and the writer. How do you work with questions and answers that you simply just read the source? What do you do it without receiving answers? I try to be adhered to the source, and what he says the source for me, it supposedly comes from above. So when you read the source, are you in questions towards the source, or are you simply reading and that's the truth? No questions, but these questions I try to connect them to states that I go through the sources. Let's see, when we're reading the source and then we ask you questions, so you answer answers, and this way we open up even more. Now when there are stages where we read a lot, where does the question, we do the questions enter here? Because we're asking questions from you. Or how do we open it even more? That which is written, it's all about personal attainment, as much as each and everyone wants to neutralize himself and receive an influence bestow from above. What does the ability to self-neutralize depend upon? How do you neutralize yourself? What does it depend upon? I don't want to belong to it with my will to receive. You're speaking about the sources of course. How do you approach them? What is to approach them without the desire to receive? How do you approach the source? I can say each one according to the way you're in by reading the sources to reach ADH with the Creator. I'll say where I'm asking it from, because it feels like there's new work that I seemingly have to do revision on, how I kind of correspond with the source, with the friends, with everything, and I don't know how to kind of place myself in this new state. Precisely, it'll come on its own. You need to yearn with a question mark on what am I supposed to do, and in that way you'll get an answer to that's how you learn. Thank you, Ref. You hear what you're saying, what you answered. I feel that the more I'm adhered to the text I need a review more. I would even say that even the more I'm adhered to the text, I feel like I need to hear the questions of the friends. And on the other hand of things, if I don't need to see the source, I don't feel a need for all that. Yes, so what? Let's say we read the article right now. I felt that if I don't hear you now saying something about it, something is missing for me. This is the way I feel. How do you work with that meaning? And what happens? I'm sorry, one moment. What happens as the result is that when I don't hear you, I lose the ability to be connected to the text. This desire is connected to the text. I see it dissipates if you don't get involved in there. If you're not there, we need to ask more and more, and not be afraid that after the questions you lose the Text your questions are what ascend upward and cover the Creator. I don't know if I'm saying clearly, but that's what happens. Yeah, I think I heard another thing about questions. There's also a need in the question beyond the scrutiny towards a connection with the upper one, connection with you, meaning I want a certain need for a connection with the awakens in me, and therefore I rise and ask a question. All these things are actually building the relationship with the Creator as it goes through you, and a new form of study I don't know feels really like it's missing. Like said, I don't know where to place myself in this thing. Can as a yeah, these questions need to be gathered and to raise them up to the Creator. To the Creator, He can answer them all together. That's it. Okay, what are you all looking at me like that? Knowing all the processes that we talked about in last 20 minutes, what's the role of the 10? Just the way we learn. Eventually a person receives through the 10th, that's correct, but practically we can't talk about the articles. There aren't too many words, and you're recommending to simply read them preparation for the next day, because it's not exactly clear what's the work in the 10, what's the study. Together talk a lot about the amazing what's the role of the 10. The role of the 10 is to help each and every person go through his path as a person and connect all those deficiencies, demands, concerns, man and mud toward the Creator. The 10 can stabilize. That's how they come closer to the general correction. Thank you. I have another question that's been with me for a long time. If you want to answer it, what is the study together in the group? How do you study together too? No, not two. How do we study? It's a 10. Together we talk about the study before RAR, but what's the study in the group? Together in friendship, studying in a group, in friendship, studying together, that there are people that are able to bestow to upon the 10, and usually through them the study receives response, the right response to what they get from the book. I can't say more right now, 'cause we're not in this yet. We're not in it yet. When time will come, you'll get also all the vessels in your hands, and you'll be able to connect and disconnect, assemble, disassemble the 10s in all kinds of ways, and build every time a different chari of it. Thank you. What Leon start to ask, can we say that the 10 gives a vector and power of the direction that each of us, meaning the article, is aiming us to the Creator through the author? But how much I connected this precisely end with power is according to the vector that the 10 is giving. Can we say it that way? Yes. Said okay, I have nothing else to offer. If you want to keep going a bit, so we have time. Did we finish this part of our revealing? The yes, we completed that. Heading, what heading? We finished that paragraph. Yes, at part we did. No, so let's see a bit more. Let's learn another part, attaining the spiritual form. Yes, it is likewise in attaining the spiritual form, the attaining HS in its two forms. One, that it will not be imaginary whatsoever. Two, that its attainment will be beyond any doubt, just as one does no doubt. One does not doubt one's own existence. The title spiritual indicates that it is resembled to the wind in Hebrew, as although the wind has no edge, similitude, or appearance, no person doubts its existence. One's life depends on it. If the wind is sucked out of a house, should an animal be taken there, it will die. Hence its existence is obvious, for it is one's life. And from corporal we can understand the spiritual. The essence of the inner mind is similar to the interior of the body, which is called the soul of every flesh, regarded as a with its deficiency. Likewise the internality of the mind, called the intellectual soul, is also a deficient being. And from the corporal we can understand the spiritual. The essence of the inner mind is similar to the interior of the body, which is called the soul of every flesh, regarded as being with its deficiency. Likewise the internality of the mind, called the intellectual soul, is also deficient being. It is so because such a being that feels its existence feels its deficiencies. This is not so in animals, which are completely devoid of that perception and are completely devoid of the intellectual soul and its internality. Because of this they feel its deficiency to the extent required for their physical existence. Its vitality is measured by the extent of the consistency of the sensation of lack, and if it does not feel a lack, it cannot feed itself and continue to exist, and it dies. Moreover, its size and health depend on the sensation of the lack, like the corporeal body with a healthier also has a greater appetite and therefore eats more and thus grows bigger and healthier. Question about their deficiency also in Rasha's article, and here too we read that the revelation of the action of the creator is in concealment, that the correct deficiency is actually what's concealed. The correct deficiency, what it is, what the creator is hiding from us. Yeah, and we are constantly seeking a filling, so how to connect what the creator hides, the concealment, actually to be more aimed towards the revelation of the deficiency, and that the correct deficiency for us is the filling. We also read this with Rabash, I think, how related to this in the first part. So what are you asking? I'm asking how to be aimed towards the correct deficiency, how to feel the quality of the creator specifically in the correct deficiency and not in the filling. Okay, yes, this is what he writes, that the need for attaining the emanator. Know the need to attain the emanator. You must still know the lack that the intellectual soul feels. Let me tell you that it is the need to attain its emanator, for it is engraved in its nature to crave to know its emanator and creator, since it feels its own existence. That is, it has been prepared by default to search what is above. It cannot be said that this lack is not defined in attaining its emanator, but that it rather pursues all the secrets and wishes to know about supernatural things and incarnations, and about what is in one's friend's heart, and so forth. This is not according to the rule that I have written above, that the internality of the matter is that which does not extend oneself. If ever a lack for attainment would be depicted only in its maker, but it is clear that only this attainment is an internal luck, which is not called an offshoot, but an inquiry in the creatures is an extension towards others. For had there not been creations in the world such as if it were the only creation, it would not have been pursuing to attain them. Whatsoever attaining its emanator is a deficiency towards itself, and this is its being, that is, it feels itself as an emanated being. All its events aim toward it, and this is the deficiency, that it feels that it will be able to attain its emanator, and to the extent that it perceives that vision, we can actually measure the size of its own body. The last sentence here is a really flipped around, but attaining its emanator is a deft deficiency towards itself. Okay, no. Well, we'll continue some of other time. Yes, you have something to ask from beginning to end. One question, can none? Yes, how is it that how to make the leap that what a person lacks is actually the greatness of the creator, his importance, in order to attain the vessels of bestow? No, you want to connect through all of creation, build a bridge through all of creation. That's the advice that he repeats each time. Also, a person feels his own lack, he sees he has no vessels of bestow, and then he can come to despair, to say, I don't have deficiencies for bestow, I don't have deficiencies to love the friends or to not love myself. And here he says that what he lacks is the greatness of the creator. Yes, but he feels that he's lacking vessels of bestow. Yes, so he's told, concentrate on the great of the creator that will bring you vessels of bestow. So when a person is immersed in not having the vessels of love of friends, he feels he doesn't have those vessels and he's unworthy, and then he can come to despair. So how to understand that this is specifically his place to ask for faith in the creator, that he close to him, and he now will fill everything except for prayer. What's in your hands? Prayer for what? That's a question. What are you asking for? Because a person asks for vessels of for what he feels he doesn't have those vessels. He doesn't have the vessel of love of friends, so he doesn't. It's really your inner deficiency, your central deficiency. Even that's not really, of course not. And he says, moreover, jump, ask for the greatness of the creator. Ask if you'll have the greatness of the creator that will give you the vessels of best. Yeah, how can you ask for this thing that is even more of not lacking greatness of the creator? You can imagine if it's as if it's lacking, because according to that you can advance, you can discover everything, you can see everything, you can attain everything. So it's clear to us that we need to advance more and more. We'll continue tomorrow. Our schedule for today: Monday at 1110 we will have the news program. At noon we will have the afternoon lesson. At 5:30 we're reading the stud, and at 7:30 p.m. we're reading the Tsar, and we'll conclude with the Soul. Thousands of years in the darkness we roam, chasing a whisper that's guiding us home, so many miles searching for a sign to break free from these cages of time. Is there some place beyond all the noise? Our SDE behind every voice, something ping us out from the dark, something whole behind these broken. Now we can't run from this heart anymore. Come discover what we're living for, and through the fire we see there's a way, and it's leading us to a new day. Is there some beyond all the noise we silence behind every voice on this road that is leading us home, all united and sing in our S for share with the King.